Turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you to all of us for joining us. As Hannah said at the outset, please feel free to continue to introduce yourselves in the chat. We love to know who's here, and we will be affording plenty of time to take your questions. What I love about Innovate US workshops is that these are designed to be intensely and immensely practical. So I am thrilled that we have three fabulous doers with us today who hopefully will be imparting wisdom about how they have been so successful at innovating, especially using AI. I will just give you very brief introductions to them, but what we'll do is, Hannah, if you can accommodate us, place some links to their bios in the chat so you can read more about them and who's here, which I'm sure you did when you were signing up. But what we'll do is we'll ask each of them to really talk about three kind of innovations that they have worked on and what they have learned from the process. I'll then ask them some follow-up questions, hopefully integrating some additional questions from you, and then we will take everybody's questions and encourage you to participate actively in the process. So we have here Intishan Chowdhury, who still are the youngest borough administrator in the state of emergency. Sorry, you can tell where my brain is at. The state of New Jersey. It's a state of mind of New Jersey. And the first borough administrator of Bengali American descent. He serves as borough administrator for the borough of Prospect Park, and in which he manages the day-to-day affairs of the city. And we're going to hear about how he has been deploying generative AI even in a smaller community without a tremendous number of resources to make and create a 24/7 conversational government that's responsive to citizens' needs on, again, not just 9 to 5, not just driving into an office, but enabling people to get information from City Hall when they need it and when it's convenient for them. Then we have Judge Zoila Casanova, surrogate in Passaic County, also in New Jersey. And in her role of surrogate judge, she seizes, as she says, every opportunity to demystify the court through community outreach. Prior to being elected in 2022, surrogate judge Casanova was an attorney for New York State Unified Court System, where she worked on the court implementation of the New York State Raise the Age legislation. And she's going to be talking about how she's using AI to make the court system more accessible to people and create what, to steal, talking about older TV shows, she calls the People's Court. And then we'll hear from Micah Gaudet, who's the Deputy City Manager and Chief Public Safety Officer for the city of Maricopa, Arizona. But I think for our purposes, also equally important, the founder and creator of the AI in Local Government Network, which has over 190 local government participants worldwide. And I'm sure we'll want to hear more about the network, Micah, and how and who can participate in that, in addition to what we're going to start off with, which is hearing about practical applications of AI for local government from you, as well as then how you're training local officials. So we'll do it in reverse order. We'll start with Micah and then go on to Zoila and then to Intishan, and then we'll open it up to questions. So if I could just ask each of you and do sort of one at a time to kind of give us some introduction. I think that would be very helpful. We'll start with you, Micah, and we'll go from there. And I would ask everybody, again, please, as they're talking, feel free to put your questions in the chat so that I can moderate and order the questions and bring you into the conversation as we go along. Feel free to do that as they're talking and keep the conversation going in 3 dimensions. While they're talking, we can be having a second conversation in the chat and amplify our learning as we go. Okay, with that, thank you and welcome. And Micah, let me turn it over to you.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks for hosting us here. An honor to be with Judge Casanova and Intishan, a growing legend. I think all of us, we all made the ELGL Top 100 if my record is correct too. So kind of cool to get all of us in a similar panel. Really excited too, just as we kind of just shape this idea of the practical applications of AI, is that AI is here, right? There's a lot of futuristic potential of AI. And I just finished actually today writing a Substack article that I've been thinking about over the weekend about the language we use when it comes to talking about AI and how much of our language often centers around the words like could or this will do this, right? Frankly, my 8 ball broke probably about 15 years ago in terms of projecting what the future looks like. None of us saw the rise of generative AI in the last 5 years. And so for us to say what it's going to do in the next 5 years is probably a little bit arrogant in my opinion. But instead of talking about what AI will do or the potential of it, which is fun conversations to have, we get to sit down and talk about what AI is doing right now. What is it doing in the city of Maricopa? What is it doing in the judicial system in New Jersey? What is it doing in Prospect Park? And these are real world applications, not just the what could be or the shoulda, woulda, coulda conversations, but what we're doing right now. And it's really excited to be part of this conversation.
Awesome. Did you want to say a little bit more about what you are doing?
Sure, happy. Yeah,
I'll pass it on to the judge and then to Intishan. But we'd love to get just a little bit of an overview from you about your kind of pick a project for us that we can dive into, and then maybe we'll get in a little bit later to the local government network.
happy to. Happy to. If you don't mind, I'll share my screen because I like to show stuff rather than just talk about things. I think we're kind of tired as a right now in terms of just hearing people talk about AI. So what I'll show you here is just some really simple ways in which we can use AI. And for this, what I want to do is just really quickly create a GPT that I think is going to be relevant for everyone here. It take probably about 5 minutes to do this, really quick and easy. So we're on ChatGPT. We'll click that Create GPTs icon there. And what we'll do with this is we're just going to say, create a GPT for my HR personnel manual. It's going to update the GPT, create this. And this is to me, a really easy one because all of our organizations have some sort of HR manuals or things like that. And for this situation, we'll say that's fine. But all of us have a policy document that we're working with. And so it's a really easy way to be able to bring conversational analysis and the power of AI into our systems. And what this is great for is you take, say, a new supervisor or a new employee and they have questions about it. Instead of having to go through and read hundreds of pages of HR policies, they can have that conversational analysis with it. And it's okay, what does my policy say about bereavement? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to upload the city of Nogales, Arizona. I used to work in that city, a great border community here. I'm going to say, let's have all the answers based on this policy manual. So what this does is it gives us the context, right? We know within, say, personnel manuals, that's going to be different, right? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of similarities between the HR manuals and policies that Intishan has in Prospect Park and that I have in Maricopa, because some of these are regulated by federal law. But there's also going to be some nuances. Some things will be different, right? Prospect Park needs to have policies that make sense to them, and Maricopa needs to have policies that make sense to us. And so if we were to use a generic just chat GPT and go to the conversation, what would happen is we would get answers basically from all over the world, and it wouldn't necessarily be the right response for our employees, our staff. And so if we went to chat GPT and said, what's the policy on how many days you're sick before you have to request a doctor's note, Prospect Park might say, we don't have a policy on that. It might say 5 days, might say 2 days, might say 3 days. There's going to be a lot of variation in that in our different cities, but we want to make sure that our employees and our staff have the answers for them, because at the end of the day, they have to follow our individual policies. So for this, we'll just say, let's do casual response for now. And it's going to update the GPT. And you can see how quickly we're going through and creating this GPT, in which we'll be able to look at it and have answers based only on our policy. So one more thing I want to say here is if the answer is not found in the manual, please tell the user to consult with HR and their immediate supervisor. And this just provides one of the important things when you're using AI is that human in the loop perspective and making sure that we are using AI as a tool to augment human capabilities instead of replacing human capabilities. And so what we can do here is here's a preview over here. We can say, what are the company's leave policies? Should give me a response here. Let me see if I can do this here. Bear with me 1 second, because my screen is being all kinds of messed up here for a second. But it's generating the response based on the parameters that we gave it. So what we'll do here is we're just going to say only me for now. I'm going to share it there. And what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to pull it in from my library of GPTs. That might be helpful for you to see as well too. So here we go. That's published. I'll go back over here. I'll grab my HR GPT, explore GPTs, my GPTs. Here we go. And now let's try this again. What are the company's leave policies? So it's going to search knowledge again. This is based only on the contextual information I gave it, only based on the Nogales personnel manual. There's no other source of information coming in here. It's tailored to my specific use case. And so you can think through of how much benefit this gives our personnel, the ability to democratize this information across, various types of learning styles, various types of educational backgrounds. We want to hire a diverse workforce, and then our policies are written as if, they're written for folks like Judge Katsanova to be able to interpret, understand because of the legalese and implications of that. So one of the things that this is just for me a really helpful and easy entry into using generative AI in a very practical way. You can tell it took, just a few minutes to set up, and now we're off to the races in terms of our ability to get information out, get training out. We could create training from this. There's so many different applications we can do. We can have conversations, turn this into a chatbot. We can build policies. We can refine policies, see if there are conflictions or areas that are not as clear as they should be in our policies, be able to police those languages up. So I'll stop sharing here. So I just want to, again, a really quick and easy way to get kind of dip our feet into the water there and how to use generative AI in a practical application. And that's really what we do in the AI and local government network is we bring people from all over the US. Brooke Smith from Utah, she was on a webinar a few months ago talking about how she's using AI in her role as a city clerk. And so we bring people from all different functions of government and have them talk about how they're using AI. And different cities have different regulation. That's great. And we're going to embrace and love the fact that cities are doing things at a different pace, which is totally fine. But what we can do is we can learn from each other in terms of where they're at, right? Something that we find out in New Hampshire, for instance, a policy they're creating or something that they're doing might be not exact one-for-one match to my world here in Maricopa, but if I can learn 10% of that, then I become 10% better. And that's one of the things that we want to do in local government is that incremental sustainable change to drive forward progress. It's not always leaps and bounds. Sometimes it's one small step at a time that really builds growth and really builds progress. And that's what the AI and local government network is all about, is about spurring that type of progress and innovation across our local cities. So excited yeah, go ahead, Beth.
Thank you so much. I want to move us forward and bring in Zoila, but maybe while the judge is talking, you could put some links to the local government network and et cetera in the chat. And also let us know who's invited and who's not invited, because we have a lot of people here from state government as well. So let us know who gets to come to the party. And with that, let me pass it off to the judge. And tell us more and let us know if you want to screen share about what the modern day version is of the People's Court.
Well, my goal was to make it accessible and demystify. Like I said, I always say the surrogates court is the people's court because we are the court that deals with people's estates, guardianship, and adoption. So most people may never even get a parking ticket. Um, Not I, but or even a moving violation, never ever go to court for any reason. However, most likely at some point you might have lost a loved one and might need to access to the at least the surrogates court and the court overall. The considerations that I had is the sensitive information that I have that it's not even available to the public, that we are not to disclose. So I implemented AI to make it more accessible so that it's not just about just us, it's overall justice. And AI gave me the tool to be 24/7, where people can ask questions, and most importantly for me, in multiple languages, which is what we cannot do. We do not have the resources or this to hire staff that speaks multiple languages. Indijan and I are in Passaic County, where we have over 500,000 residents in this county. And how can you address or go where they are? That was my ultimate goal, while still securing the private information that I hold. And so AI has been implemented in my office through phone at night after hours. You will speak to AI. AI is able to answer your general questions about how to file, what would be the fee, where are we located, what is the process, and most importantly, we're going to where the end user is, and AI is allowing us to do so by answering in their native tongue. The other is the interface chat, which sits on our website more in a parasitic manner as opposed to embedded, where we provide proper source. We've given it real legal knowledge, not a Google search that is broad into anything and misinformation sometimes, or even information that might link them to other states, which are in the areas of states and trusts, it is very state specific. So AI, I'm unable to share because I'm not as fancy as Micah is, but I have a tech person that helps me with that. But it has helped us be able to provide information to our community. We do not, we do not actually provide legal documents, but we provide clear, accurate legal information, which it allows us to control the data that is being um, reached and shared, as opposed to a general search. And we're also working on the next level. It's used publicly available documents. So if a person comes to my website, it will interface with AI if they choose to. It will also provide them forms for them to complete. One of the things that for the back end for us, AI has been helping us become a little bit more efficient by identifying, because we've given it all our different forms and all the different documents that are used to start a court filing. And AI has shown us the inefficiencies because it's read it, it's understood it. So for us, it's been a really great tool because it's told us you don't, all this information can be merged into, we had 4 forms at one point for one filing. It reduced it to 1 based on its suggestions. The other element, my staff, as opposed to having to go always to the same statute or the rule books, because we've taught it to AI, my staff now searches more efficiently for the legal answer. And so it's not just what we provide for the public, it's also utilizing our resources, I find, to the best or most efficient way. And that's what I've seen most of all, because we do have limitations as to what we can link because of the sensitive information and the network, the secure network that we are in. But even though with those limitations, AI has made us be able to reach our clients, if you want to say, more efficiently. We go where they are at as opposed to them trying to struggle to where we are at. Interpreters are great. However, they're limited and not all languages are representative easily. AI has allowed us to do that without the need of any third party other than the AI to actually help those where they are at. And that to me is the number one. And and this is a perspective from a very secure, sensitive data environment because our courts are, and the data that we have is not even, we have Daniel's law in the state of New Jersey. We are protected. We don't have to provide, we don't have to comply with that. No one needs, we don't even do Oprah in the same way because courts do not have to give out information to, Oprah is our public information disclosure. We don't even have to do that. And so allowing AI to really become, and our chat, we also see a transcript of the chat, which helps us identify what is confusing in our process because you'll find the legal information, but it's spoken in legal terms and can sometimes be confusing to the lay user.
Thank you so much. I have quite a number of follow-up questions, and I would encourage other people are starting to put things in the chat as well, which I'll moderate. But Intishan, let's go over to you last, but very much not least, to show and tell a little bit about the Borough Prospect Parks chatbot and what that looks like and how you've implemented it. And then we'll get more about how all three of you have done the work that you're doing.
Well, first and foremost, Beth, thank you. And thank you to Innovate US for the opportunity to be a part of this amazing panel. Micah is a legend. And Judge Casanova, she's near and dear to my heart. She is definitely a pioneer in our county, and it's great to see her incorporate our, AI deployment tools into the surrogate courts to the point where now there's other county surrogates throughout the state that are trying to do the same. So she's definitely a pioneer. I like always, I'm always the youngest in the room, so it's an honor. I think one of the first things when I got appointed, and I had the privilege of having the governor at my swearing-in ceremony, one of the things when I was doing my first ever op-ed piece of what I wanted to do as a municipal manager was figure out a way to be more efficient and be a 21st century municipality and be a model municipality for communities big or small throughout the country. And in order to do so, one of the things I think that the public sector is behind on is leveraging technology. And so what I tell a lot of communities before I started or eventually found AI and the applications of AI in addition to other tools, I wanted to implement or increase my digital footprint. So for all of you that are listening in this afternoon, one of the things I encourage communities to do, or for your organizations, take a look on your website. Start right there. It's a data hub. It has data sets. It has information for the public to access. See how you manage your content. What is the quality of the content that you have, whether it's your mobile app, your website, and what have you. So so I wanted to update my website, and I did that. I brought a different vendor in, and this was all pre-pandemic. And then I brought in a mobile app, and I combined the two. And in addition to digitizing all my files, I went ahead and I said, you know what, there needs to be a conversation around service delivery. I think a lot of times with the concept of generative AI, you have the search chat, you have voice, but there's not enough conversation around service delivery because if you cater it a certain way, AI can be used as customer service agents, where they're mobilizing your forms and your applications and your processes a bit further, assisting your staff and being that additional guardrail for a municipality like our size that's strapped on resources to still get the job done and get the information through, but also attach applications and processes. One of the things I understood right away when the public is coming to receive information is they want to accomplish municipal business in 2 clicks or less. So how do I keep the flow going. And because, you know, we had forms and applications that were online and people are still downloading it. They're still emailing staff. There's still that extra 2 or 3 steps. And I wanted to make things a little bit smoother externally and also internally with workflow. And so what we did was we partnered, given our small government, and this is what I encourage a lot of communities to do, especially those that are small. You can always embark on a journey of public-private partnerships. You don't have to build everything in-house. In fact, I have a lot of third-party CRM tools. I have, you know, a partnership with a company, Polymorphic. There's others, there's CityBot, there's a few others, but I encourage you to do your research if you're a small community, because there's other organizations that can assist you in implementing these features like AI deployment. And I was able to do that, and I found a great partnership. And I started with my forms and my processes. And what we did is we attached the forms and the processes to our search chat. So if you ask a question, and we'll go through the example shortly, how to make a public records request, you'll be able to essentially read through the 3 or 4 steps of what the chat is providing. And Judge Casanova already alluded to, it's open source data. It's data that you control and you own, so it's open information. And we're able to attach our form to it. So now the public knows what's the very next step, or if they have any follow-up information. I liken this process to like telemedicine, essentially, right? So it's like prepping that patient for that visit with the provider. So in that case, you know, the municipal employees are kind of and government employees are kind of being prepped before someone has additional questions or potentially a visit. So what I'll do now is I'll share my screen just so folks can see exactly what I am talking about here. Can everyone see my screen?
Now we do.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So this is our website. This is prospectpark.net. And we also just rolled out voice AI because we have an after-hour line just like Judge Casanova has. And it basically piggybacks off of the search. And you're able to dial our main number. We synced it with our telecommunications provider. And then you hit 2, and you're able to ask whatever question and receive that information in real time. So I'll ask, how do I make a public records request? So as you can see here, and it's very important, right? My mother does not speak municipal jargon, right? And she cannot, you know, comb through municipal code book and, you know, understand what's the information that's being, you know, provided to her. However, I think what this does is it democratizes access to information. It streamlines everything. It synthesizes information in a way where the public can digest it quickly and they're able to understand what they need to do. So as you can see here, this walks you through our Oprah process. And then there's a form here that I connected where the public can go to, and they're able to fill out in a very transparent way their Oprah form. And they're able to accomplish what they need to do. And then my staff is able to see everything on a dashboard. And now there's better accountability amongst my staff. Why I wanted to do this is because a lot of small governments experience turnover. Oftentimes, some people are in a municipal organization of my size, given 5, 6 years, maybe 7, and they're moving on to the next gig. However, when you have products like this, it cuts right through that, and no matter who's in charge or who's running the show or who's working in what department, we have kind of now a platform where the public continues to be served because the buck stops at the local level. So we were able to roll out this feature, and we were able to focus around service delivery and the quality of service delivery. And now when residents do call us, or let's just say they do have a follow-up question, they're able to pick up from a specific step. So it saves a lot of time for us to serve folks that truly need assistance that come into Borough Hall. And we operate on a 4-day work week. So our municipality is working from 8:30 to 6:30 Monday to Thursday, and then we're off on Fridays because, you know, we're a working class community. So a lot of people would like to come in for services still in person or speak with their municipal staff. They're able to do so. But now people don't even need to do it because they're able to accomplish municipal business, whether it's on our website or on our My Prospect Park app, where we have the search, the AI search on there as well. And we're able to basically tie in all of our CRM tools in order to better serve the public in this way. And we feed all kinds of links to the chat. I'm always having conversations with the partnership that I have with Polymorphic, and I'm providing them the information, but it's all the data that I control. So it's been working well, and we've noticed that we've seen a reduction in 70% in terms of paper-based processes, where our staff has moved away from sticky notes. Things don't get lost in translations. Our emails are not cluttered with moving along handicap permit applications or a dumpster permit application. Everything is on a dashboard. We're able to also see identified trends with this generative AI tool, where the public is providing their input or asking their kind of questions. So we're able to see what adjustments we need to make in our processes for the decision makers in terms of the mayor and council. So it's been a really great tool. And then internally, based on this information and data that's being created, based on how many people fill out these forms, licenses, and permits, my staff is able to use AI internally to basically generate reports for the governing body ahead of council meetings and things of that nature, or committee-based meetings. And so it's giving confidence to my staff as an extra layer of support that they might need. And voice AI is a new thing that we just rolled out, and we've seen a reduction actually in folks coming into Borough Hall. Not that we're complaining. We'll take care of them if they do, but we're actually seeing. I think one day I only had 5 people come upstairs. I kid you not, and they were all like the elderly population coming in for handicap, and they need assistance to work through the computer to submit the forms. But even then, my staff is using all these tools to educate themselves as well. But also, if somebody's coming in to fill out a form, they're actually uploading it into the system as well. So it's been working really well, and we've been actually identifying ways to improve our operations accordingly. But I think what's interesting is how we can deploy AI further. And one of the things I'm curious to see and I'm working on now is and I know Micah has a big thing about this is AI and budgeting, right? And forecasting trends to the trends that are to come long term, because municipalities, we struggle. We're coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's rising inflation costs, and there's a lot of trends to consider. And if you can use AI to give yourself a little bit of a head start in terms of your planning long term, I think that's something that I see and envision municipalities looking forward to. So it's been working well. We haven't had any issues, and I tell municipalities, if I can do it, and I'm a town of 6,600 with a $6.5 million budget, and a lot of my ratables come from residential taxpayers, and we're able to create a lot of these public-private partnerships to get things done, I encourage you to do the same, whether it's reaching out to a company like Polymorphic or others and doing your research and making that cost-efficient decision. And you don't have to have an innovation department. You don't have to have an IT department. You can literally reach out and get your quotes and do your research, and you'll be able to build something out. And now when people go on my website, I can't tell you how many times residents come in here and be like, do you have like a big like innovation department team? I was like, no, it's just all custom branded, and it reflects as if Prospect Park is has a big innovation line item in their budget, but we really just make conscious decisions in terms of public-private partnerships, and that's how we were able to pull off everything that we pulled off.
So I'd love to ask each of you, what was the aha moment for you? You are still, although these tools, because they're driven by plain language, are things that anyone can use, I still would venture to hazard a guess that you are in the extreme minority of people who are really leading in the use of AI, especially in local government, but I think also in state. And so I'm just wondering, was there a moment? When did that moment happen, and what was that moment that took you from being, average to being superheroes? Not that you were ever average. Let me say that a nicer way. Even better than you were before and more impactful. Judge, maybe I can start with you. What was the aha moment that allowed you to jump off this cliff that most people find very scary with some very new technology?
Well, I come from a tech background. Prior to becoming a lawyer, I spent 10 years in technology. And what AI is today is what the internet was for a lot of people way back when I did. And John takes the title of youngest in the group. I take the title of oldest in the group. And so I'm not afraid of technology. And so for me, it was making my aha moment was when I saw Chat GPT translate things in another language. And that's where I said, this I need. And I partnered with Polymorphic. I did my research and partnered with Polymorphic, who brought this and is able to translate 72 languages. And we're working on expanding even more in voice as well as in print. And think about how, for a court, even though you enter it in your native tongue, it's going to transcribe it for me and for my filings in English. And that was my big aha moment. The ability to be able to bring these documents, bring the law accessible to various populations is my aha moment, and why I decided I'm going to take this leap and I'm going to um, start AI and implement it, because it is important. It is so important for the law. So many people get disenfranchised because they don't have access to the information and the law in particular. And so I come from an immigrant background. My grandmother would not. She used me as a translator, luckily, because I probably would never become a lawyer had I not been advocating for her. But it's something that is the story for so many, and AI is giving us that tool. That's the big aha moment of, this is something that I really want. And thanks to Indijan mainly, because he actually has less hurdles to jump in our county, because he's at a municipality. He actually, we both or had already identified Polymorphic as our partner, but he was able to launch much faster than I did. It took over about 9 months for the county to approve me to actually test it.
Micah, maybe let me go over to you and ask you not just what was your aha moment, but as the judge is alluding to, there was a specific problem that motivated her, which was the desire to do translation for immigrant populations. Did you have a problem that was motivating you to innovate?
So I don't know if it was a problem. My son wouldn't think it was a problem at all. I started using ChatGPT back in December of 22, primarily to write dad jokes and terrible bedtime stories for my son that incorporated those dad jokes. So not really a problem from his perspective, but really it's not a single aha moment. It's a collection of aha moments that I'm having even today, right? Just a couple weeks ago, I'm not a tech guy at all, right? I'm not from the tech background. I'm in the public sector, focusing on, I do a lot with data, but I don't really know the inner workings behind data. I want the data to be clean by the time it gets to me, that way I can look at it, but I'm not a tech guy. And so I was working on something for my YouTube channel a couple weeks ago, and the AI model is able to do a spatial join based on two different data sets and joined addresses and locations of intersections and brought it together, be able to see it put together. And so for me, it's almost like a million little aha moments that makes it so much fun. It's not a single one. It's the ongoing pursuit of excellence and creativity in our local government, very similar to what Judge and Intishan are doing there in New Jersey, like, that are creating those aha moments for us. And it could be my fire chief coming up to me and telling me, hey, I saw this new AI tool, you got to take a look at it. Or my police chief talking about how he was using AI to draft a letter or something like that, or help out with the paragraph he was wanting to write for some, to really hone in on the message he was trying to communicate. Like, those are the aha moments that to me are really, really fun to see and exciting, as well as coming up with terrible dad jokes regardless.
Against my better judgment, I will invite you to put one of said dad jokes in the chat as we go along. I might
Okay,
even let you tell one if we have enough time, but we might lose all of our audience then.
we'll wait to the end. That way we don't lose anybody.
Intishan, what was the aha moment for you that led you to become the innovator that you are? Was it to keep up your reputation as the youngest and the most innovative? I used to be the youngest in the room. I hate to tell you, it fades quickly, but so sometimes you have to be the most innovative as well.
Beth, that's a great question. Yeah, I'm hoping one of these mayors in the state appoint a 12-year-old or something, because I've been holding this title for like 6 years, and I'm about to hit my 30s soon in like 3 years. So it's like, it's still sticking. I know. I got appointed when I was 22, but I think for me it was like and I'm gonna quote Tom Brady because I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. I'm a huge Patriots fan, and when you ask him, what's his favorite ring, he tells you the next one. So when we were building momentum in terms of increasing our digital footprint, just like Tom Brady, I was like, there has got to be more than this. There just has to be, given the fact that we're so understaffed and under-resourced at times as a small government, and there's turnovers, there's a lot of circumstances that make us really think about, how to work better for the public. There has to be a better way to give a fighting chance for small communities. And I just gone down and I did a lot of reading. And what's beautiful about a municipal government, you're part of things like the AI and local government network. You're part of ICMA or NJMMA. You're part of these general conversations with folks where you're able to exchange ideas and best practices. And I remember I came across an article and they were talking about the concept of AI. Now, generative AI, it can get a little bit complex, like what they're doing out in the Midwest, where Micah is with digital twin cities and things of that nature. However, I did read a little bit of an excerpt that said, hey, at the very basic level, you can do a search. Replace your keyword search. Give it a shot, because you can always go back to what you did before. You can always go back to that other link, other search that you had. You can always go back to sticky notes. You can always go back to these other forms of paper-based processes that you have, because those have been established processes. However, this is something new. Let's give it a shot. Let's give a chance for our community to have that momentum in terms of getting access to information quicker, getting access to services a little bit better. I've been, really driven by service delivery and being efficient, and I can't tell you how appealing it or appeasing it is to hear from community members at a community event. Like, I was on a website on the weekend and I was getting ready to, put up or change my roof or whatever, and I need to ask a question, and I put something on the search, and the website is just so fluid. And a lot of the challenges is that smaller governments, especially municipalities, they really just don't have the resources to really, put effort into this area. But once you do, it becomes really rewarding. And I think for me, that was my thing. It was Tom Brady. I got to say, that was my aha moment. I wanted to win another ring, I guess.
And I see I will just say, both of you have had successful experience with a vendor. I do just want to make clear, I'm sure people here want to hear about practical companies and platforms, etc. I will just give the caveat that we are entirely non-commercial here at Innovate US. We do want you to give specifics and all of that. We don't imply any endorsements here, and we're here primarily to talk about kind of what the skills are that you and your team have exercised. But obviously those partnerships and who you worked with can be incredibly helpful advice to people as they move forward. So Intishan, you told us already about some of the feedback that you've been getting both from your team and from residents. Would love to sort of hear from each of you how you're measuring the success. You gave us a number, Intishan, of 70% reduction in paperwork. How are you able to actually quantify what the success is for you, whether it's in let me say, or measures, so whether it's in quantitative or qualitative terms? What are the signals you're getting that things are working? And let me ask that of each of you, and I'll go backwards through the line. So let's go back to you, Intishan, and then we'll go to the judge and to Micah.
Yeah, that's a great question, Beth. Thank you. I think I was able to quantify that data set or that information based on my department head meetings. I still have those meetings, and I'm able to get solicit feedback from the municipal staff, there was a certain way we used to do things, and now we really don't do them the way that we used to. And we're able to, and we've seen it, whether it comes to, purchasing copy paper or, general cost savings with these kinds of things. We're able to take that information, and obviously our vendor was able to help us kind of gather that data with information from our finance department, and having conversations with other department heads, and we were able to get to that number of 70%. And it's a whole host of things that we're trying to achieve. I think, in terms of the feedback overall, though, what for us, because we're a small operation, I find with all of these implementations of generative AI that we're yielding higher productivity in our staff. And what I mean by that is my team now is able to focus on other projects. We're able to plan out, let's just say, a community event a month or 2 months in advance, better now, because we have all of these other things in place that's already taking in information from the public. People are asking questions online. They're able to fill out their forms online and licenses online. And so that takes it in, and our staff is able to better pace themselves. So I'm noticing better organization and a higher productivity from our team. For instance, we have a Spray Park Memorial opening party community event, and our team is small, so we all help each other. My rec director is done. She's been done for like a month with this event, and that's because she's not too busy taking care of like 20 residents coming in that's seeking use of facility rentals, requesting to sign up their kids for the summer camp, and so on and so forth. We have all of these portals in place. Now the public is taken care of. We could just direct them if they're able to. We have kiosks. Hey, you can go over there, fill it out. I'll be in touch with you within X amount of time, and it holds them accountable. So, and there's better internal workflow and better workplace, relationships in terms of, hey, I understand my expectations. I understand, I need to get this done and within X, Y, and Z time. And I think these tools are able to do that, in terms of understanding what's our expectations, and it sets clear expectations. So I think that's what I'm getting internally, and like I said, externally, I've noticed, it's just me just counting, what I could see upstairs, downstairs. I talked to my municipal court administrator downstairs, and we're just talking like, how many people did you see today? And I think like for 2-3 days, for a 2 to 3 day stretch, and it's like a regular week at Borough Hall, we're seeing at max maybe like 10 people. That number varies, but you could count them on your hands who came and visited Borough Hall, and we're open till 6:30, so we're anticipating a big rush, and that rush is not coming. So it shows that even if people are not taking advantage of the tools that we're providing, at least the government has done what they needed to do, where it's there. The guardrails are there, the buck stops at the local level, and we're able to do that. So it's been great, and I think we are gonna see an even more reduction in paper-based processes. But it's been a great tool, and a lot more confidence amongst the staff. Right, they're able to produce a lot of things for the governing body, because not every staff member is the same. Not everybody writes the email the same way. Not everyone is able to report out on a particular project the same way. I think the generative AI tool, especially the internal workflow that I have, it's giving the municipal team a big head start in terms of feeling confident in their abilities in order to digest the data that's being created from the forms, processes, and license and permits that's being supported with generative AI.
Judge, should we go over to you? How are you measuring success? What feedback are you getting, or how do you know it's working?
Well, for us, our AI actually generates data for us to actually see. So with the phone calls, on average, we overnight will get anywhere from 28 to 32 overnight calls. And then people actually have the option to have us call them back. That has been reduced. Prior to implementing AI, we were answering those calls, and it would take my receptionist or another staffer about 2 hours to take down every message and then figure out what to do with these individuals that we're calling. That is gone. So now I'm able to use my human capital more efficiently rather than having a receptionist, because AI not only will transcribe exactly what was being told to it, but generates different pockets because that's what we've asked for it. We've asked because we've worked with, and Indijan and I work with the same group, but they've tailored it for our needs. I wanted to know. And so the same thing with the communication after the fact. So once we've identified what the person wanted, we can have AI respond via email. And that's still slightly in our beta test, but just knowing the data of what it is generating for taking those 2 hours of responding to those calls, and instead it is breaking them down, because it will ask based on the prompts that we've wanted it to do, to split up what these categories are, whether it's a guardianship, whether it's probate, whether it's an adoption question, and that reduced, and we have clear data. The other piece is also AI has been able to identify our inefficiencies. So it will say, and it gives us the back end percentage clearly. It will tell us we received in this week, one, and an example recently from last week. This week I answered 173 calls, and most of them ask for your address. And it will tell you that. And that is something that it goes beyond just a statistic of how many phone calls we got. It would also give us solutions, or and it says you might consider making your address more prominent. And that's a valid question that we still don't know how to address it. It's on our webpage, and it's the prompt when they call, but that is the primary question AI is getting. But those are the big things that we see, and the use of my human capital, my staff, is no longer killing 2 hours there. The other wonderful piece that we didn't even consider is that the staff is utilizing the AI chat option to answer some of its own legal questions too, because we've fed it the court rules, we've fed it the judicial tools, the statute, and my staff no longer has to search through a book. They ask it, and it actually gives them the exact citation for the rule of law that would be applicable, as well as any tools. So, and now the next layer is having AI assist the end user to complete some of our documents, which that percentage we clearly have thanks to AI as well.
So I just want to remind folks that we're about to turn to your questions. And as a reminder, we turn off the recording and streaming so that you should feel very free to ask. Let me say there is no such thing as a stupid question. And so therefore you should ask, no matter what you think of your own question, I'm sure someone else shares it. But Micah, let me go over to you to answer the same question, and then we'll start to bring in some of our audience here.
Yeah. So one of the ways that we measure success based on our city mission statement, right? And that's the overall guide mark of what success is are we able to meet our city mission and our objective that we defined in our, we do an annual strategic planning process every year with our key leadership team and with mayor and council, and we define those objectives. And so part of it is, okay, are we meeting these objectives? And part of that discussion also is, what are the things that we're doing that don't meet the objectives that we need to stop doing? And so we spent a lot of time, and I think AI has helped us a lot to do that, and having these discussions of what do we need to stop doing that no longer makes sense to meeting our mission as a city. And really a quick, easy example of how this has played out. In last year, we began the year with, I think, about 15 vacancies on our police department. I used kind of a AI is kind of an idea generation of say, okay, how do I tackle this problem? What are some tools I can do? And it talked through how I could go ahead and bring our different stakeholders together, like HR and the police department, and bring in a conversation. That's what we did. We had a conversation. We talked about, okay, what's motivating officers to coming into the profession, and really came down to they want to become a police officer, right? They want to do the actual job. And so we said, okay, how can we streamline our process to be as fast and still proficient as possible, right? We don't want to decrease our standard for what it means to be an officer. In fact, we actually want to elevate it, because I think some of the issues we've been having when it comes to retention is because the bar wasn't set high enough. And so that's what we did. And we focused on the quality applicants that we want. As of today, I had one officer who resigned recently, or I did a resignation recently, but I'm down. I have one vacancy in my entire city from starting with 14 or 15 at the beginning of the year. So, and that was driven by AI coming up with an idea and then bringing the right stakeholders together and focusing on the mission of what we wanted to accomplish. And that is, we wanted to hire and retain quality police officers for our city. And so that's really our focus. We can get, to me, one of my favorite quotes from my previous city manager is, one of the dangers of success is we become really good at doing the wrong things. And so the more we focus in on what is our mission as a city, what do we want to be as a city, what's our identity, who do we want to be, and that's propelled us as a city to being, I think just recently we were named the 5th fastest growing city in the entire country, 2nd fastest in the state of Arizona here. And a lot of that is because of our commitment, our relentless commitment to the mission of the city and accomplishing that. And everything we do, whether it's using AI, whether it's bringing stakeholders together, whatever it is, it's about meeting the mission.
Fantastic. So we have, I'll look to Hannah now. We're at the top of the hour. So is this the moment where we turn everything off? We